You can't always read a woman's past by looking at her. The face lies, the smile lies, even her confidence lies, but her energy doesn't. There's a certain heaviness, a quiet hollowness. You can sense the moment she sits across from you. It's not about counting who she slept with. It's about something deeper, the pattern etched into her emotional responses, the way she speaks about love with a strange distance, the way intimacy feels like a performance rather than an unfolding. And here's the uncomfortable hook you can't ignore. You feel the truth long before she admits it. The truth that something in her has been overstretched, overused, drained by repetition. She isn't broken in the dramatic way movies portray. She's worn down in the subtle ways life inflicts on people who keep giving themselves without ever receiving anything solid back. You notice it in the way she engages with you. She flirts easily, maybe even flawlessly. She knows how to touch your arm at the right moment, tilt her head just slightly, maintain eye contact long enough to give the illusion of connection. Yet nothing quite lands. It feels like you're talking to someone who's learned the lines but no longer feels the script. Her reactions are correct, but hollow, genuine in appearance, empty in essence. It didn't happen overnight. Every time she opened her heart to a new man who didn't stay, something in her dimmed. Every time she shared her body with someone who wasn't truly present, another layer disconnected. That's why emotional numbness isn't a mystery. It's a defense mechanism sharpened by repetition. She once loved with depth. She once trusted without overthinking. But when intimacy becomes a cycle instead of a journey, the heart adapts. It closes a little more each time until connection becomes something she imitates rather than experiences. Most men misread this emotional anesthesia. They call it independence, maturity, emotional stability. They think, she's so strong, so unbothered, so in control. But indifference is not strength. Indifference is what happens when caring becomes too painful to maintain. Mystery is not power. Mystery is sometimes just exhaustion wearing a beautiful mask. And that mask is built to hide a truth she doesn't want to face. She can't feel the way she once did. When you meet a woman like this, the danger isn't that she's malicious. The danger is that she's empty in places where you expect fullness. You're offering depth to someone who has forgotten what depth feels like. You're trying to pour love into a vessel full of cracks, and while she may admire your effort, she has no space left to hold it. You're not fighting her resistance, you're fighting her history. Before we go deeper, let me tell you this. If what you're hearing resonates, stay here. This space isn't for comfort seekers. This channel exists for men who are tired of illusions and want clarity, not sugar. Because clarity is what will save you from the most common trap men fall into, trying to heal her. You think your patience, your empathy, your consistency will be the key that unlocks her softness again. You imagine being the exception, the one who reaches the parts of her no one else has reached. But she's not waiting to be saved. She's waiting to feel something again, and she doesn't know how. You cannot resurrect a part of her she buried for survival. That's where the real tragedy lies. She isn't cold because she wants to be. She's cold because warmth has cost her too much in the past. She isn't distant because she's cruel. She's distant because closeness has become dangerous terrain. Her emotional world is a landscape shaped by abandonment, short-lived connections and repeated detachment. And whether she realizes it or not, you're stepping into terrain shaped by other men's footprints. You're not meeting her in the present. You're meeting everything that carved her into who she is now. There's another layer to her numbness that most men overlook: how she treats intimacy. A woman who has repeated the same emotional cycle too many times begins to treat closeness like a routine, not a revelation. Intimacy stops being a doorway and becomes a gesture, a checkbox, a familiar pattern she knows how to walk through with her eyes closed. She speaks about sex with an ease that seems confident, unfiltered, liberated. But listen closely. Beneath the casual tone, beneath the jokes and the stories, there is no reverence, no trembling, no pause. An intimacy without pause is a sign that intimacy stopped meaning something a long time ago. When someone has given the most personal parts of themselves to too many people who gave nothing in return, something inside detaches. The body remembers the motions, but the heart stops attaching meaning to them. She can tell you what she likes, how she wants things, what she's into, but all of these preferences feel strangely external, as if she learned them, not felt them. You sense it when she's with you. The moment feels good, but not significant. It's pleasurable, but not intimate. It's like kissing someone whose mind is watching from a distance while the body goes through familiar choreography. She may call it empowerment, autonomy, liberation, words society taught her to use. But on a deeper level, it's emotional callous. She's not bold, she's desensitized. And the tragedy is that she doesn't know the difference anymore. She thinks she's choosing freedom, but she's really continuing a pattern that keeps her from ever feeling truly connected again. You sense her detachment even while her hands are on you. It's like touching someone who can mimic closeness but cannot feel it. And that disconnect becomes your burden, not hers. But intimacy is only the surface. The deeper fracture lies in how she views attachment itself. A woman who has cycled through too many temporary connections learns an unconscious lesson: never stay long enough to be hurt. She becomes accustomed to the adrenaline of newness, the spark of the beginning, the intoxicating rush of being desired. That high becomes her emotional drug, and like any drug, the tolerance grows, the beginnings get shorter, the endings get faster, the depth gets shallower. So even when she meets a good man, especially when she meets a good man, her instincts betray her. The moment the spark fades and real intimacy should begin, she panics, not outwardly. Outwardly, she'll say things like, "I'm just not ready," or "I need space," or "I don't want to ruin what we have." Inside, what's really happening is simpler. The part of her that should attach no longer knows how. She knows how to desire, she knows how to flirt, she knows how to create chemistry, but she does not know how to stay. You'll notice patterns if you pay attention. Every few months there's a new emotional storyline, a new man who wasn't what she thought, a new disappointment, a new reflection about what she deserves. But the characters aren't the problem. The script is. She keeps replaying the same act with different faces. She isn't looking for connection, she's looking for stimulation, and stimulation has no loyalty. That's why so many men end up confused when she suddenly withdraws. You didn't do anything wrong. The problem isn't you. The problem is that stability feels unfamiliar to a woman who has lived her whole romantic life in transition. Permanence feels suffocating because she never learned how to sit still in love. Commitment feels like captivity because she only knows beginnings, not continuations. And loyalty feels unnatural because her emotional world has been built on exits, not roots. Here's the bitter truth. You can give her love, but you can't give her capacity. You can offer her consistency, but you can't offer her connection she no longer contains. She doesn't run from you. She runs from the parts of herself she lost a long time ago. There's a moment, usually subtle, when you realize she isn't really with you. She's with a memory of the past she keeps reenacting. Women who have cycled through too many temporary bonds begin to form emotional muscle memory. Their heart learns how to detach before it learns how to stay. Their mind learns how to exit before it learns how to trust. And that's why loyalty becomes a foreign language to her, something she can pronounce, something she understands conceptually, but something she cannot speak fluently. You're not dealing with betrayal, you're dealing with conditioning. Every time she grew close to a man who didn't stay, she reinforced a belief. Attachment is unsafe. Every time she was intimate with someone who vanished, she fed a deeper narrative. Don't invest, don't surrender, don't open too far. She didn't choose these lessons. Life carved them into her, and now, even when she meets a man who offers stability, who shows patience, who wants to build something real, her instinct is to pull back before she loses control. She's not addicted to chaos, she's addicted to emotional autopilot, and autopilot never lands anywhere for long. Watch her patterns, they reveal more than her words ever will. Every few months she changes direction. New man, new interest, new soul connection, new disappointment. Each story begins with intensity, a spark, a rush, a feeling of destiny, and ends abruptly with distance, excuses, or cold detachment. She thinks it's bad luck. She thinks it's choosing the wrong men, but it's repetition disguised as fate. She isn't searching for love. She's searching for emotional adrenaline, the high of the beginning, the chase, the unpredictability, the fantasy. And when reality replaces fantasy, she checks out, quietly, automatically. Commitment feels suffocating to her because commitment demands something she has lost over time, emotional permanence. To stay, she would need to feel. To grow roots, she would need to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is something she abandoned years ago because it cost her too much. So instead, she uses the language of independence to cover the fear. She says things like, "I need my freedom," or "I'm not ready for something serious," or "I don't want to be tied down." But beneath these words lies a deeper confession she never says aloud. I don't know how to be chosen without disappearing. Here's the part men misunderstand. She doesn't leave because she wants better. She leaves because she can't tolerate emotional stillness. Stillness forces her to confront how much of herself she's lost. Stillness makes her aware of the emptiness she carries. Stillness reminds her that what she calls freedom is often just fear dressed up as independence. When the relationship reaches a moment where real attachment should begin, she short-circuits emotionally. Old patterns kick in. Her nervous system whispers, "Run!" And she listens. Not because she wants to hurt you, but because she thinks she's protecting herself from a collapse she has lived through too many times. The deeper tragedy is that she mistakes emotional numbness for strength. She thinks her ability to walk away is proof of independence. She believes her refusal to attach is proof that she cannot be controlled. But autonomy without intimacy isn't power, it's avoidance. And avoidance, no matter how polished or confident it looks, is a form of self-imprisonment. She's not untouchable, she's untouched, she's not unbothered, she's exhausted. You can't teach loyalty to someone whose heart has been trained to flee before it feels. You can't be the exception to a rule she carved into her own bones. And you cannot make a home inside someone who only knows how to live in emotional rentals. This is where most men shatter. They take her withdrawal personally. They think they weren't good enough, but the truth is far colder. She isn't rejecting you. She's reenacting what her past taught her to survive. Another sign that her past has reshaped her is the way she handles men with almost unnatural precision. A woman who has navigated dozens of emotional dynamics becomes fluent in male psychology in a way most men underestimate. She has seen the patterns, studied reactions, tested boundaries, and refined her instincts through sheer repetition. So when she meets you, she already knows what works. She knows when to soften her tone to pull you closer. She knows when to pull back to trigger pursuit. She knows which pieces of vulnerability to reveal to make you feel chosen. None of this feels calculated to her anymore. It's not manipulation, it's muscle memory. At first, this feels intoxicating. You tell yourself she gets you in ways other women didn't. You feel understood, seen, appreciated. But the deeper truth is less romantic. She isn't responding to you as an individual. She's responding to a familiar pattern she's played out many times before. The tenderness she shows you, the timing of her affection, the way she mirrors your emotional state, it's all choreography she has perfected with other men. You aren't experiencing authenticity, you're experiencing expertise. And here's where men get trapped. You confuse her emotional fluency for emotional depth. You mistake her skill for sincerity. The connection feels unusually smooth, almost too natural, because she has rehearsed this connection 100 times with different faces. She knows how to make you feel chosen without actually choosing you. She knows how to make you feel significant without ever allowing you into the parts of her that matter. Her charm is real. Her technique is real. But her attachment is not. When someone becomes too experienced at emotional navigation, they stop relating to people and start relating to templates. You're not the first man she's pulled close and kept at a distance simultaneously. You're not the first man she's drawn in with softness, only to retreat the moment feelings deepen. You're not the first man who thought he could be the exception. And this is why men who deal with women like her often end up emotionally depleted, because you're not fighting a person. You're fighting a pattern sharpened by years of repetition. The exhaustion hits you slowly. You start to notice that her responses feel polished instead of spontaneous. You begin to feel like you're playing a role you didn't audition for. The more you give, the more she mirrors. But the moment you ask for reciprocity, real reciprocity, she glitches, she withdraws, she becomes distant, vague, elusive. It's not because you said or did the wrong thing. It's because you stepped outside the script she's comfortable performing. She doesn't know how to give emotionally, she only knows how to react. And then there's the dynamic almost every man ignores. She becomes who she needs to be to maintain attention, not who she truly is. She adapts herself to fit whatever expectation she senses in you. She knows how to appear mysterious, how to appear deep, how to appear emotionally intelligent, but none of these personas are stable because none of them come from a rooted sense of self. They come from survival. They come from repetition. They come from the dozens of emotional auditions she's been through, each one teaching her how to refine the role a little more. This is why you never quite feel like you're meeting the real her, because the real her has been buried under layers of performance, layers of learned behavior, layers of practiced reactions. And here's the hook that many men refuse to accept. You cannot build something authentic with someone who no longer knows what authenticity feels like. You're trying to connect with someone who abandoned her genuine emotional identity years ago because it was easier to function without it. The more time you spend with her, the more you start to understand the truth. She isn't hard to read, she's hard to reach, and those are not the same thing. She's not mysterious because she's deep. She's mysterious because she's empty in places she can't admit to. She's not unattainable because she's selective. She's unattainable because her heart became unreachable through overexposure and undernourishment. You're not failing to unlock her. There is no lock. There is only absence. If you really want to understand a woman's emotional state, look at what she can't live without. And for many women shaped by too many unfinished stories, that thing is male attention. It doesn't matter how strong she appears or how loudly she claims she's focusing on herself. If she has lived in a cycle of being desired, pursued, validated, and admired, attention becomes her oxygen. Without it, she doesn't feel powerful. Without it, she doesn't feel visible. Attention becomes the mirror in which she checks her worth. And the moment the reflection disappears, she begins to crumble. This isn't vanity, it's dependency. A dependency shaped by years of receiving quick bursts of validation from men who never offered depth. Those micro hits of desire rewired her emotional system. Being seen replaced being known. Being wanted replaced being valued. The chase replaced emotional nourishment. So she keeps the machine alive. She posts seductive pictures, not because she's confident, but because she fears becoming invisible. She answers messages from men she doesn't care about because silence feels like a threat. She keeps old flings on standby, not because she wants them, but because she can't bear the idea of having no backup attention source if her current one fades. You'll see it clearly once you're close enough. Even when she's with you, she needs the background hum of other men orbiting her. She needs the digital applause, the subtle flirtations, the just checking on you texts. She needs to feel like someone, somewhere, still wants her. When you try to give her peace, slow love, quiet spaces, emotional safety, she calls it boring. But peace doesn't bore her. Peace terrifies her, because peace forces her to confront the emotional emptiness she's been covering with noise. Here's the trap most men fall into. You try to compete. You try to outdo the ghosts in her inbox. You push harder, text more, show up more, try to be more attentive, more romantic, more available. But you're fighting shadows. You're fighting a need so deep she can't admit it to herself. And no man can outcompete an addiction, not with affection, not with presence, not with commitment. The more attention you give her, the more she craves, because you're feeding a wound, not a desire. And a wound has no bottom, but her patterns don't exist in isolation. Look at her friends. They are the ecosystem that keeps these cycles alive. A woman's friend circle is the clearest window into her worldview. If the women she admires treat men like seasonal accessories, if their conversations revolve around flings, situationships, hot girl summers, and drama, then you're not dealing with a phase. You're dealing with a culture, a belief system, a tribe where emotional depth is laughed at and loyalty is treated like a trap. In that environment, sleeping around becomes a badge of honor, not a cautionary memory. Her friends will push her toward the very behaviors she claims she wants to stop. They'll tell her, don't settle, keep your options open, you can do better, post that picture, he's not giving you enough attention. They're not giving advice, they're feeding the addiction, they're maintaining the system, they're terrified of intimacy themselves, so they disguise their fear as empowerment and convince each other that detachment is liberation. Most men forget this truth. You're never just dating her. You're dating everything that shaped her. Her habits, her wounds, her friends, her coping mechanisms, her desire for attention, her avoidance of stillness. And if her environment normalizes chaos, you will always be fighting for a spot in a world where men are disposable. You'll be giving commitment to someone who values novelty. You'll be offering emotional sanctuary to someone addicted to emotional stimulation. You won't be building something with her. You'll be competing with the noise she refuses to detach from. This is why so many men feel drained long before the relationship ends. Because deep down you sense the truth. You're not her priority. Her priority is the attention that keeps her from collapsing into herself. If you want to understand the full weight of her past, listen to how she talks about men. Not individual men, men as a species. Women who have lived through too many short-lived bonds accumulate emotional residue the way a house accumulates dust. Slowly, quietly, invisibly. It doesn't look dramatic from the outside, but it shapes everything she does. She'll joke that all men are the same, or she'll laugh when she says she can't be played. But beneath that playful cynicism lies something much heavier. Disappointment she never processed, betrayal she never healed, attachments she never finished grieving. Her bitterness isn't attitude, it's scar tissue. She carries pain not in tears or breakdowns, but in tones, jokes, and dismissive comments. The bitterness becomes a shield, a way to stay one step ahead of vulnerability. She thinks that by adopting a hardened exterior, She's protecting herself from future hurt. But the truth is that this hardness traps her inside the very pattern she's running from. She becomes the unbothered woman, the one who never cares too much, the one who always leaves first. But that persona isn't empowerment. It's exhaustion pretending to be strength. It's the residue of emotional overuse. Stay attentive and you'll see the duality. There are moments when her mask slips, when a softness appears in her eyes, when her voice cracks mid-sentence, when she hesitates before telling a story. Those moments reveal the truth. She's not cold, she's tired. Tired of trusting the wrong men, tired of giving parts of herself that were never reciprocated, tired of confusing lust for love, tired of the emotional debris she's been dragging for years. But instead of processing that fatigue, she buries it beneath sarcasm, bravado, and emotional distance. It's easier to be the woman who doesn't need anyone than the woman who admits she was never truly held. This emotional armor affects everything she touches, even when she likes you, especially when she likes you. She keeps one foot outside the relationship, not because she wants options, not because she's playing games, but because she learned the hard way that attachment is always the stage before collapse. So she holds back. She invests just enough to feel connected, but not enough to feel vulnerable. She'll tell you she values freedom, but what she really fears is losing herself again the way she did when she gave too much to men who took too little. This is the hardest part for men to accept. You cannot outlove her history. You cannot erase the memories that taught her to self-protect. You cannot make her trust again if trust feels like self-betrayal to her. And then comes the final twist, the piece men never see until it's too late. She disguises her emotional chaos under the language of healing. She's always in a healing era, posting quotes about peace, cutting off toxic people, declaring a fresh start, journaling, her reflections. But if you look closely, nothing changes. The pattern repeats. The healing is performative, a reset button pressed just long enough to prepare her for the next emotionally shallow connection. She isn't healing, she's detoxing. She's clearing space for another repetition of a cycle she refuses to confront. Stillness is her enemy because stillness forces truth to surface. Stillness reveals that she no longer knows who she is without noise, without attention, without a new emotional spark. So she keeps moving. New man, new experience, new distraction. She mistakes activity for growth. But growth requires introspection, and introspection requires silence. Silence is where she would have to face the emptiness she's been filling with men, validation, aesthetics, and temporary highs. A woman who fears stillness cannot build a lasting bond, because stillness is the birthplace of real love, and she hasn't felt still in years. If you ignore this truth, you'll step into her life thinking you're the solution, but you'll end up drowning in wounds that were never yours. There's a moment, usually late, when you realize that everything she calls healing is actually escape. She changes her language, her routines, her playlist, her Instagram quotes, but not her patterns. Every few months there's a new chapter, a new man who came into her life for a reason, a new wound she narrates with poetic detachment, a new revelation about self-love, a new vow to do better. But the cycle stays identical. She gets hurt, she declares rebirth, and then she walks right back into the same emotional architecture wearing a different face. Healing without transformation isn't healing, it's resetting. She doesn't pause long enough to integrate anything she experiences. Integration requires stillness. Stillness requires honesty. And honesty requires confronting the parts of herself she avoids, the loneliness she masks with bravado, the emptiness she fills with attention. the identity she lost somewhere between the men she loved and the men she tolerated. So instead, she keeps moving, faster, louder, brighter. She mistakenly believes activity equals growth, but movement without direction is just distraction masquerading as progress. She doesn't evolve, she escapes. And that's why, deep down, she doesn't truly know herself anymore. When a woman gives too much of her emotional self to too many temporary situations, the boundaries between who she is and who she becomes for others begin to blur. She adapts to each man, each relationship, each dynamic. She becomes a mirror instead of a person, a reflection instead of an identity. She knows how to be desired, but not how to be known. She knows how to attract, but not how to attach. And she mistakes confusion for freedom. Because confusion can feel like liberation when you've never sat long enough with yourself to understand your own shape. When you enter her life, you're not meeting a whole woman. You're meeting fragments, pieces of who she used to be, who she pretended to be, who she tried to be, and who she never became. She doesn't love anymore. She collects. She collects moments, experiences, men, stories, aesthetics, emotions, not to build a future, but to fill a void she refuses to acknowledge. The more she collects, the emptier she becomes, because nothing can fill a space she never stops reopening. Here's the harshest truth of all. You cannot heal a woman who refuses to stop running. You cannot outpace her wounds. You cannot love her into wholeness. You cannot be the man who finally makes everything make sense. Her chaos didn't begin with you, and it will not end with you. Because chaos is the only state in which she feels alive. Stillness feels like death to someone who ties her identity to emotional stimulation. Peace feels like suffocation to someone who associates calmness with abandonment. Love feels dangerous to someone who has equated pain with passion. And loyalty feels impossible to someone who has spent years teaching her heart to withdraw before it gets attached. None of this makes her evil. It makes her tired. Tired in ways she cannot articulate. Tired in places she hides behind bravado. Tired from battles she never resolved. She's not heartless. She's numb. She's not manipulative. She's conditioned. She's not independent. She's afraid. And if you're not careful, you'll step into her life offering solutions to problems she has no intention of solving. You'll invest in potential she doesn't possess. You'll project your values onto someone who operates by different emotional physics. You'll confuse her desire for attention with desire for you. And you'll lose yourself trying to save someone who doesn't want salvation, only stimulation. So don't hate her. See her. Recognize the pattern. Protect your peace. Because real masculinity isn't proven by how much suffering you can absorb. It's proven by knowing when to walk away. By knowing which hearts are capable of building a future and which ones are still living in the ruins of their past. And if this truth resonated, even a little, stay close. This space isn't for comfort, it's for clarity. Subscribe if you're ready to stop lying to yourself about who you can save and start choosing who can truly meet you.